watch the slides, but loads of slides, lots of words. It's an hour and a half talk, cut down to 20 minutes. It's entitled, What's This? Is It Important? Or the early Saxon Cemetery, early, middle and late Saxon Settlement, test pit program and community archaeology of Oakington with the Fleam Dyke, the road to the Rhine and the hand-on Conundrum thrown in for good measure. It's about making connections, it's about looking for patterns, about forging partnerships and not being afraid to be wrong. And getting research into development archaeology, because that's what this talk is meant to be about today, isn't it? Oakington, very small place, tiny, unimportant, quite dull. 1920s, even duller, was a man called Mr. Bloom, a great name for nurseryman, came over and he built a nursery in Oakington. Whilst doing that, he found some bodies just there, next to what is now the kids' playground on the wreck. I found Saxon bodies, 4 Saxon bodies with treasure and spears and things. In 1993, much later, we came back to do a bit of rescue archaeology. So first you find stuff, a bit of rescue. They took 24 bodies out of there. Couldn't down the climbing frame of the horse and the swings, unfortunately they'd already been built, but the rest of it was fine. So 24 bodies, lovely stuff. I came back, just as much hair, thinner, in 2007 to do some development-led archaeology on this thing. They wanted to build a pavilion and a mugger on their site. Pavilions and mugger. Strip those, dump them. Now, while I was there, I was there thinking, I can see at least 3, probably more, at least 3 great resources here. 1, the buried soil, because I'm dull that way. We dug, there's about this much, buried, fine, rich, virtually unploughed subsoil there, full of pottery and stuff. 2, the cemetery, clearly much bigger than we had, much bigger than we first thought. 3, the settlement archaeology. Broken, Saxon, middle, late, all there, waiting to be had. Now, I was down there, just there, in 2007, and the person who answered, what's this? Is it important? I found it in my garden. And what it was that. And that, as you know, is Ipswich ware, and as you also know, it is the finest pottery made by humankind in any period throughout history. I'll see you outside later, Mike, I'll tell you. So, that's the buried soil. In those test pits we dug, we found 600 sherds of pottery, of which 2 were Saxon. Now, if 270 sherds are a 12% sample of that area, then those areas could contain up to 3,000 sherds. And that area could contain 22,000 sherds. It's all maths. If that contains 22,000 sherds, now, potential 80,000 sherds of Saxon pottery in the area between where that bit of Ipswich came from and where I'm there standing. See, it goes through my head, I'm going, I've got a great brain for maths, you know. So, that calculation being had, what do? I help to form the Oakington Western History Society. And we dig test pits. We move on from rescue to development to community. We get them involved and we dig test pits all over the village. 4 years later, what's it? All that tells us really is that that's where the Roman pottery is. It's all scabby and whatever. That's where the early Saxons are. That's where the middle Saxons are, same place. Well, that's where the late Saxon expansion, as you'd expect, late Saxon. 12th century, even more expansion. Beyond that, nobody cares. Resource number 2, the cemetery. Okay. We had, as you know, 24 people in 1993. Estimating with a chisel and hammer, the best way for a body ever on it. 2006, we had 45 bodies by this point. What do? How do I get those out of the ground? The rest of them. Not with volunteers. Oh no, even worse. I get university involved. I get UCLan involved. Duncan Sayer, nice chap. He comes down with his students in 2010, and we start a research dig. We've gone from the from the casual find to the rescue to the developer to the community to the research. 2010, 2 more babies. 2011, up to 70 bodies now. 2012, up to 110 bodies. 2013, 120. Last year, the final year, 124 bodies. They're all out, we can get anyway. The cemetery, it's got 104 people in 113 graves. The Asian sex is what you'd expect. There's some women, there's some men, there's lots of babies. Lots of babies is not particularly rare. Duncan thinks it's rare, it's not rare. Preservation here is really good, hence babies survive. This treasure, but nobody cares. It's what you tell about how you use the treasure might be important. These little things here, these little stars, as remind me to say something along the lines of, I don't know what this means, but it's important. Now, looking at the cemetery, a very casual glance so far. I haven't done any projects at all yet, but we've got small long wedges, Grisform, and round wedges. They come from different kind of sides of the country on the whole. Further west you go, the more round they get. Further east you go, the more square they get. Now, that's not a cemetery. The square outweighs the round 5 to 1. This side, other way round 2 to 1. That might mean something, I don't know yet. Pottery vessels, even better than treasure. We got 13 of the graves with pottery vessels, 12 with children, 1 with a woman. And they're all over there again, you know, they can punch it in. Now, what they mean doesn't really matter. Again, it's probably lump. I take tit milk, you know. These are little tiny babies, look, tit milk, go to heaven with. Or, I don't know, any people, I'm sure, tell us one day. Even better than pots is sherds. Now, people being buried with sherds is better than pots. We've got 27 with big sherds of pottery. 11 with children, 10 men, and 6 with women. Sherds by the knees, on the pelvis, big sherds. Means something, don't know what. The important thing is though, for that one, with children, it's 20% each, vessels and sherds. Women, 20% sherds. Men, none have pots, but 40% have sherds. That does mean something. It's big enough maths. Weapons burials, there are some. Animal burials, there are some. Again, all of that's again on that western side. We got a small horse, which was small and headless. So I didn't laugh. Funny. Number 32 in the country, that one. We have a large horse. Number 33 in the country. Yeah, there we go. And we got a cow. Number 1 in Europe. The cow is controversial. I will not deny this. It was briefly number 1 on the BBC hit list on the website because the headline was "Bizarre Cow All Town Event." I will leave that controversy to stand. Double burials got size as well. Triples, yeah, got those as well. We're even doing DNA now because we're clever. We're going to do them all if we can, the whole lot. So far, all we know so far is those 2 are a little bit Iron Age, and those 2 a little bit Anglo-Saxon. Don't ask. I'll be going through the paper today. I don't understand. But again, there could be, you never know. There could be, when they've all done, there might be a pattern. Pattern's useful. Body possession. That definitely means something. But I don't know what. The settlement archaeology. Now, much better than bodies. Talk you more about stuff, I'm sure. There is early Saxon cemeteries. Let's go through it this way. We've done some geophiz. Put geophiz on with the excavations. There's some more stuff. That's your interpretation. The rough phasing goes all over the road with a field system. Saxon Cemetery, by the road. Early Middle Saxon, 8th century. Lots of enclosures coming in. Big stuff in the late Middle Saxon, big stuff, big dishes. Contraction towards the road, late Saxon, all gone and ploughed out by the medieval. Now, we take, this is going fast, it's going well. We take information from the geophysics and the excavations, running on a nice LP. We then add in the info from all the test bits, and this excavation up here, we dug a little tight in someone's back garden and found 3 phases of Saxon building up there. Done test bits around there, found Middle Saxon, which is a lovely big enclosure, big Middle Saxon enclosure around the church, the vicarage here, cemetery. There's a manor over here, beautiful holloway down here. Underneath this thing's, it's ecclesiastical of some description, because it's got a church in it, I can tell. Add all that onto the crop marks and the earthworks that used to sit all over the area until the farmer got a bit upset by his sheep falling in the holes occasionally, and he flattened them all gone now. But add those in as well, crop marks, earthworks, all our info. That one's rather nice road, that road that I had earlier on with the cemetery, that continues up through here, the early road to road. But all that onto the 1834 tide map. I've now getting documentary, so into documentary archaeology now, everything's in here. So. This has on it a thing called the Ancient Lane. Now, I've no idea how ancient you've got to be in 1834 to be called ancient. But it's there, and it lines up with our holloway. And this boundary here, these crop marks here, across there, it forms a crossroads with our earlier, presumably Roman road. Crossroads with the church in one side of it, the earlier cemetery in this side of it. Nice little thing. Put that ancient lane holloway onto the OS map. You can trace that, I can trace that, easy. About 50 kilometres so far, up and down that line. Roughly what it's doing, it's coming from Tamworth somewhere, middle of the country, down through, aiming for the Stour. Stour, one of the most navigable rivers in East Anglia, up into East Anglia, on the road, up you go. It's a road, it's a route. Put it onto a map of our area, shows the rivers, make it simpler, the 2 main rivers, crossing at Chesterton and at either St Ives or Holy, I'm not quite sure where. Probably both at varying times. These things last for, centuries. Bit area in here, just for the geology, that's the word. You can see how the trackway runs up the gravel line, and the road uses the green sand, forming out crossroads at Oakington. This bit gets a bit ley liney now. You can whack onto this thing, all manner of things you want to whack onto it. You can put on major medieval priors down here. You can put on medieval fairs. St Ives, up here, it's about 2nd or 3rd biggest fair in England, medieval period, at the junction of Hughes and the trackway. Stourbridge claims to be the biggest fair in Europe in medieval period, at the junction of the trackway and the cannon. And it runs down the Fleam Dyke, one of the Saxon dykes. Now, in the routeway is becoming a border. A border and a routeway can be the same thing. Useful passage. The Fleam Dyke is multi-phased, unlike most of them. Most are quite simple, we think anyway. This one, multi-phased. And we now know from other ones that these are at least early Iron Age. We've got evidence for that, ditches, as you know, things in them, to prove that Saxon dykes are in fact early Iron Age at least. Now, sitting just to the south, about that way, is the Via Divina, a Roman route through the country. It's about 1 mile to 2 miles south of the route. It's bypassing the route. The route's old, isn't just Saxon. All the villages sit on this route. The Roman road to bypass, it just connects Cambridge via Fenstanton to Godmanchester, basically. That's all it does. There we are. That's a lovely old map of the Chester, Leicester, Cambridge, Colchester via Godmanchester. That's the old route of the Via Divina. Put that onto that lovely Villa of Rhine and our trackway onto a map of all the hundreds of Gloucestershire and parishes. And obviously that Road forms the boundary of the parishes and of some of the hundreds, which is fine. Cool. But then, look at these sort of maps and think, there's a pattern here somewhere. As you get the pattern, put your hand up. William's up there, Collington's down there, Tottenham's up there, you've got it yet? Barton's down there, Bottisham, Sawston, not got it yet? Dilliam, Linton, what I knew. There we are. All the hams are up there. All the tons are down there. That means something. I don't know what. It bloody well means something, I'll tell you. Now, you can't fucking it, isn't it? Just a shit. Happens to be true. Quite a little bit. Sticking on the roughly guessed 7th century tribal Rhine location of the big four, East Angles, East Saxons, the Middle Angles, and in the middle, a whole bunch of people we can't even say if they know where they lived, you know. All this bunch in the middle, they're living in this sort of fenland splurge between the big four. They're all there in the 7th century, they're gone by the end of the 8th century, they've been subsumed by Mercia. Now this is something to do with that Canton divide. That's what's happening, the name area. There's more of that, but it's still a very short talk. Happens also outside of the late Iron Age. Again, the assumed best guessed Icenian Valley boundary border. Same place as the Saxon boundary border. So, put on the Villa and earlier routes, comes down to Colchester, biggest city in the southeast, outside London, from there to Europe. Ancient Lane comes down to not far from Ipswich, biggest city in Middle Saxon England, outside London. A14, lovely thing, comes down to Figuerston, biggest port in England down there. What's it going? To Europe. They're all going down there, look at that route, to the Rhine. That's where they're heading, and we're heading up there. It comes back to Mark's thing about when the land disappeared, you could walk from Peterborough to Amsterdam. Now you can't. I think these routes, you know, were being taken when the land bridge was there, and they convert to boats when the land bridge goes. It's an old route. Or because someone says, what's this? Is it important? And it bloody well might be. So keep your eyes open. Thank you. Let's be quick. Yeah. We're all long.
Have you got any questions for Richard? Or for any of them? Any of our lovely speakers?
Stunned into silence.
Richard, how do you think your project, did you grow just amorphously because of the connection with UCLan, or were you already beginning to think about it? Yeah.
Oh, no, well, the project did, yeah, but the thinking, I've got them in to help with the project because the thinking's always there. It's just trying to find ways to take the thinking forward. As we know, we're commercial archaeologists, we have no money, we have no time. Time's an important thing. If I had time, I'd write it all down, prove myself to be wrong on 2/3 of it, but so what? If I had the time, I'd do that, it'd be great. But I haven't got time. So it's trying to find other sources of funding and other people, like Rob over there, Mr. Wiseman, my spare brain, because mine's going, he's still young and fresh. He's helping a lot. Other people, Duncan can't help that much, but he's helped with the money, the digging of it. Done the damn thing now, and we're going to publish it too. All DNA is being done by Welcome Trust, that helps, and they're chipping in. So, yeah, I think you go where you can to get help to do the things that you feel you need to do. And we should, as archaeologists, need to do stuff. We should all be thinking, that means something, I'm going to find out what it is. All the time, every day of life. Yeah.
Just really, and I love that talk because I mean it does prove that, you know, you didn't necessarily plan in the first instance to go to Oakham, but we've got to. it's up to us to make the best of every other opportunities that come to us by whatever means possible, and that really does show that you can do some pretty good stuff as far as I'm concerned. I love that.
Thank you. Cheers.
A question for all three of you, or maybe a comment, is that we all deal with stuff all the time.
Yep.
And we always want to always find out more stuff and better things that might change the record and our ideas of thinking about the record as we find it. But do you think in each of the three major examples you've given today, whether when you started you actually had some major questions in the back of your brain?
You stumble across them.
That's fine, and we all do that. But obviously, in our business here, in the university, in this department, we try to instill in all the work we do, that you actually do it the other way around.
Don't forget that we've stumbled across about 10,000 each in the last 20 years, and all up there, waiting to find,
Likewise,
to find reasons to,
likewise. But I'm just,
you aren't
It's all-
born with
yeah.
the research that's idea in your head. You're not, you don't come out.
I don't mean that, Richard. I mean it's thinking in a structured way about where you're going to go and where you're going to find out about more stuff.
We
to
don't
help
have
you
the
try
luxury
and
of
get
doing that.
some-
Developing an archaeology, that's the problem.
No, you're missing the point, Richard, because we can pick any landscape and find brilliant stuff out of it. But it's then, while you're working on it, even if it's development-led, thinking about, are there some questions which you can slightly divert some of the money, some of the thinking, some of the time in the field to try and get different sets of information out, which then might play into creating the dots in a different way or creating the layer stack in a different way like that.
But you mustn't
And
be
that-
caught.
No, to my mind, that's the game. And what obviously us lot here in the university hope that you'll be trying to do, so that it isn't just more stuff that we can't fit in the ADS or the HER, because we're never going to find the money to manage.
Down ideas.
It's looking for gaps on
Do
that.
you not think the longer we spend in any one landscape, we get better at it, in the sense that if the developer had any sense, they would just say to us, we're going to change the unit. That's someone who's never worked in this landscape before, and let them do it. Because the more we work within the brick pit, deposits that we thought weren't interesting have now suddenly become really common, and they're the things that we're focusing on, or want to focus on, or find new methodologies to get at. So certain sediments that we should just machine out because they're just seen as effectively being overburdened or being underwater, or whatever it was. And now we're finding wood chips sitting on the surface of them, or hoof prints and things like that. So our sensitivity to the kinds of archaeology within the quarry context keeps getting finer tuned. So it's almost to the point where we used to think the archaeology was only on the gravel edge, and now we think the archaeology is for all of the sediment. If you sort of mean, it's got that sort of level sort of thing. So that seems to be the process. And you feel like almost that the more we get into those deeper sediments, the more of those opportunities or circumstances will come up. So there is a balance, I think, and we sometimes feel like we want to do a disservice to some things, but we'll put the emphasis on some of those things.
And certainly, the more you get to go back to a landscape, you always find new things and look at it in a different way.
Yeah.
You mustn't necessarily think that to developer.
Well, I mean, I'm just
agree with you. I'll go on.
well, just from what Charlie says, I think we're always looking beyond the limits of the excavation for any types of collaboration. I think Richard's project shows that you have to look in all sorts of ways. I think one of the biggest challenges I've found, regardless of where I've been working, is how to forge those links into, say, universities. Because I think that's really where there is the expertise, technical or otherwise, where we could really do some interesting things together. And I don't have any answers to that, but I have found it very difficult to bridge that particular gap. But there are things that we go looking for. For me, when someone says it's an empty landscape, we think, well, there's a challenge. There never are they? Another one is, once you do start finding to making sense on a broader scale. But yeah, there's so much more that I think any of us in this room could probably do if we could find better ways of collaborating, because we don't have much time, but we have lots of ideas. We're all the same. Yeah, so, I haven't got any answers, any tips you can send my way, that'd be great.
I mean, one of the things that's interesting is because there's two levels of issue, one of which is the thing about great flagship projects. And we all have them, and they're the ones that are near and dear to us. One of the interesting things, and Mark's approach, your approach is always quite interesting, the specialness of sites. But one of the things that's clear through the overview projects is the sense that we're digging settlement fabric. You know, you look at the publication of these Roman farmsteads, they are horrifically alike. Yeah. And that's one of the interesting challenges I think that's going to face this, you know, the next decade or so, is that sense of that there's, yes, the things that catch the public interest, but most of the time we are actually digging the settlement fabric, and it's seeing that broad pattern. And that's where it's going to be a real challenge now as all the regional databases come online. Because this, you know, we all have a kind of goal of the specialness of our site because we're about to devote so long to it. But we actually know that the plan is just like dozens and dozens of other farmsteads through the area.
That's probably where we differ. I think, you know, it's only when you're on the individual site you get that one moment to define the individual characteristic that makes that particular site special. Because if you don't do that, then they're all going to look the same in the context of databases.
But you know, but a lot about being in ethnographic situations. I mean, of course, people's family membership and thing. But you know, most farmsteads, most, you know, whether you're in Ethiopia, they are in their basics very, very similar.
Yeah.
That's why society holds together, is because of the similarity in the ship. And so it's getting that dualism into our work that is going to be quite important, and how we start interfacing with these regional databases. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of, you know, because there's a Gosden's project has a case study through the area, because that then we'll have another database to be interfacing with. So we are going to have, it's going to be a real challenge, I think, both playing in that locally specific, but also seeing it in the larger regional pattern.
I just somehow like the idea that individual people can contribute to what they think is distinctive, and whatever form to individual sites, and just tag that up to be picked up or not later on. I just think it's great.
But there is also maturity. You see, that there is, in the early phases of archaeology, what we're doing is a fantastic experiment. No one else in the world has dug this map.
Yeah.
And you always had that early phase that's discovery-led, and that kind of Francis Pryor approach, the biggest, the longest, the deepest, the best. And that was the world when you had to sell everything to English heritage. But now we are actually digging at a density which is taking it into a entirely different level. And one of the things we owe is the idea of exploring the idea of fabric and the similarities. And so it's a dualism that has to come into that. And that's just a maturing of the archaeologist.
Yeah. It's in all of the three themes today, actually. Mark walking down into Doggerland, or Richard going off to the Rhine, or me following footpaths off the Ouse. I mean, the sites, not all of them have been excavated, but they all connect to quite different landscapes where everything sort of functions together at different times. And I'm fascinated to model that, really. I think game technology is a really interesting way of modelling that in the future.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming to the first one.